Bitcoin, Ethereum, and crypto is pumping and pumping hard. Bitcoin hit a new all-time high. Ethereum is near all-time highs, and we are right around the corner from altcoin season. All right, so in this video, I'm going to give you guys, per usual, my weekly macro update. As you guys notice, I'm in a new background. I am finally back on US soil. I am in Portland, Oregon right now at my buddy's mom's house. And right after this video, I'm catching the train, the coastal train, back down to San Francisco, and we're having a DeFi event. So I'm excited to get back in the groove of things. But per usual, we're gonna go through everything. I'm gonna give you guys my updated market views, how I see things playing out for the rest of the summer, and just keep you guys in the loop. So per usual, none of this is financial advice. Let's jump straight into it. So let's start off with the crypto fear and greed index. Guys, we're still at 63. This is a really good sign that the greed isn't extremely high, given that prices are at all-time highs and the crypto market cap, I believe, is at all-time highs. That just means we have more upside to go, most likely. We look at the altcoin season index, we're still pretty far from altcoin season. Bitcoin dominance still has a ways to go. We're not in altcoin season until we're in this area here. If we look at crypto ETF data, we can see that ETFs have been picking back up after the volume has slowed down, and we even had a heavy amount of outflows, including BlackRock selling some ETH. Now, this past week, it's been trending upward. We had on the 6th, 277 million plus in Bitcoin ETF volume, 222 million in ETH, 403 million, 461. Had a huge day, 171 million in Bitcoin, and then we had 1 billion in ETH ETF inflows. So institutions are buying, guys. Also, like I was saying in the last video, August is typically not a good month for crypto, but so far so good. In this August, we saw Bitcoin reach a new all-time high, and we saw Ethereum almost go to all-time highs. And to be honest, with how things are going, I'll be surprised if we didn't see ETH at 5K at least before the end of August. We're coming off of crypto week, so it makes sense. We had the Genius Act passed, and we had the Clarity Act passed. I think we're still waiting on the Senate and the president. So things are rolling. Altcoin season is still, in my opinion, in line to happen Q3, Q4, possibly Q1. But I think after Q1, I think we're going to start to see a bit of a dump. And I think that this is something that not a lot of people talk about. The crypto market is obviously manipulated, right? It's the easiest market to manipulate because the market cap is so small, right? So you have to keep this in mind that there are people that want certain initiatives done, right? Greed is a real thing. So I do believe that they're going to pump the markets really, really high. You're going to start seeing advertisements, right? You're going to start seeing this crazy euphoria, and then things are going to drop and people are going to lose money. And then they're going to introduce more regulations so they can have more control, right? This is how things get done. It's harder to get regulations to pass when there isn't pain. If you look back to the Great Depression, after the Great Depression, we saw 3 major initiatives pass. The Glass-Steagall Act, which has since been turned back around, but the Glass-Steagall Act separated commercial banks from investment banks, right? So your commercial bank can't just, be wild and crazy with investing, even though that's, like I said, it's been turned back years ago. The SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, was created after the Great Depression to basically regulate securities so people wasn't losing a lot of money, because they wanted people to invest into the stock market, because that's how these institutional investors made their fees. If it wasn't for the creation of the SEC, the stock market as we know it wouldn't be where it is today. I'll just say that. And then in addition to that, the FDIC was also created after the Great Depression, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which ensures that if you lose a certain amount of money at a bank, like you see a bank's FDIC insured, if you lose money, you're guaranteed, I think it's like $250K right now. Even though, fun fact, if all the banks went to Kapui right now, the FDIC would not be able to cover everything. And I remember back in 2020 when people were pulling their money out, this is the first time we ever saw ads from the FDIC saying, you don't want to pull your money out. If the FDIC can cover everything, your funds are safe, da-da-da-da. That's how things were getting crazy. But I digress. I said all that to say that, after this next bear market, whether it be caused by over leveraging, bad acting, whatever, there's going to be new regulation that passes that's probably already in the works. Now, if we come over and look at our charts, starting from the top down, you have the M2 money supply at 22.2 trillion. And again, remember on the last video, I talked about how for the first time since 1993, which was the year I was born, the Board of Governors on the Fed disagreed with the Fed chair and Jerome Powell on reducing interest rates or keeping rates the same. They voted against him and publicly disagreed, which is huge. So a lot of people are expecting 4 rate cuts, or people are saying we're expecting 4 rate cuts next year, right? So, that can even make the bull market last a bit longer. But, at the same time, we have been pumping pretty hard. And, we do still have bear markets in low rate environment. So don't drink the Kool-Aid too much, right? So if we look at the S&P hit another all-time high this week, right? We're on the weekly chart. We look at the Dow, we're consolidating near previous all-time highs. And the more the stock market goes up, the more crypto goes up, because people take profits from their stocks and they invest it into crypto, right? We got the NASDAQ, another all-time high reach. Like, look at that volume down there. The market makers are making so much money right now. It's crazy. And now if we go to Bitcoin, we're sitting at 121,000. We hit an all-time high the other day at 123K, right? So yeah, Bitcoin's the horse that leads the race. The higher Bitcoin goes, the higher the rest of crypto goes. And, as you can see, we're really extended from these 2 lines here. And the market always likes to go back to these 2 lines. But, we're expecting Bitcoin to drop. And I'm not really tripping off of it now, because we need Bitcoin dominance to drop, right? Because we need people to sell their Bitcoin so that they can start putting more money into altcoins so that we can have altcoin season. So it's not a fact that like, oh, if Bitcoin drops, everything's going to drop. Since it's so high now, I'm waiting on Bitcoin to drop so that people can start cycling those profits out of Bitcoin, right? Not just exiting crypto as a whole, right? It's going to be different this time. And the higher Bitcoin goes, the more liquidity. It's kind of like, think of a cannonball, right? The higher you drop from, the bigger the splash. And you think of the splash as altcoin season. So the higher Bitcoin goes, the further it has to drop, which means more liquidity. The more profits that people make and the more liquidity that's in Bitcoin that can leave is the more liquidity that can enter into ETH and other altcoins, which means we make more money. So I'm expecting Bitcoin to still hit 135K before the year end, but I wouldn't be surprised if we came back down to 100K or even 110K before we continue to make our way back up, because things don't normally go up in a straight line. Like you see, we had a correction here from 111 all the way back down to 98, which was 11, almost 12% drop. So just keep that in mind. We look at ETH. Look at that. That is straight up and down, right? We're almost to previous all-time highs. ETH's previous all-time high was 4,800. Right now we're at 47. I definitely think we're going to come back down and test the 4K level as support, probably consolidate for a bit before we take back off. Remember, we had this huge pump, this huge drop before it pumped again. So I wouldn't be surprised if we came down, did one of these, consolidated before we moved our way up. If we look at the total crypto market cap, the total crypto market cap reached $4 trillion for the first time in history. Guys, keep in mind, we are still early in crypto. I've been talking to a lot of people in Europe saying like, oh, I think I'm too late. And I just show them like, guys, stocks, bonds, commodities, gold, like all these major real estate, all these major asset class has multi-trillions of dollars in it. Crypto is on its way there. So if you're thinking you're too late, you're definitely not. People who invest into crypto now, and while it will be bumpy along the way sometimes, we'll get to ride the wave of it going from a $4 trillion asset class to a 50, 60, 70 trillion dollar asset class with the others. And then Bitcoin dominance. We got Bitcoin dominance still dropping. But like I said, we need to drop below our 62, right? We need to come down. We need to come back up and retest this as resistance. A nice big red candle closes here on the weekly before we see one of these and go down, because that's when altcoin season is going to start. Like we saw here, we saw a break, retest, drop. And here we saw a break, retest, drop. Same thing we need to see. So altcoin season is not going to start until we get below this line. But like I said, Bitcoin's still pumping. Even though ETH is pumping, Bitcoin is reaching all-time highs too. So the more they both pump, the larger the cannonball splash is going to be. So yeah, I've just been spending most of my time researching high quality altcoins. If you're a part of our community, you already know what these altcoins are, and you're doing really well right now if you've been holding them. So with that, I'd like to conclude this video. If you got value, like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. I'm excited to be back in the US. You guys are going to see a lot more content coming out. But with that, I thank you so much for watching. I love every single one of you who tuned in, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and trade safe.